Catherine Aragon, divorced. Anne Boleyn, beheaded. Jane Seymour, natural death. Anne of Cleves, survived. Catherine Howard, beheaded. Catherine Parr, survived. Born in June 28, 1491, Henry VIII came to the throne of England in 1509. After the death of his brother, he was a new hope and created a renaissance, as well as a new church, the Protestant Church. Along with his ascent to the throne, he married his brother's widow, Catherine of Aragon. As the queen, it was Catherine's job to give Henry a male heir. She gave birth twice, one to a stillborn male, and the other to Mary I of England, England's future short-lived heir. Desperate for a male heir, Henry looked elsewhere. His eyes were soon set on Anne Boleyn, the French daughter of an ambassador in his court. His wish was to have an affair with her, as a mistress. However, she refused his offer to be a mistress and would only let her be bed if and only she were to become queen. Desolate, Henry decided to get a divorce from Catherine. The only wall standing in his way was the Pope. The Pope was the only person who was able to grant a divorce to those of a Catholic belief. As a Catholic, Henry was to get his permission from the Pope for a divorce. His closest advisor, Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, was trusted to secure the deal with the Pope. In the meanwhile, Anne was ill with sweating sickness. Henry and Anne were forced to separate during this time period. However, they wrote letters which remain to this day. In the letters, they expressed their undying passion and love. In one letter, Henry states, "My mistress and friend, I and my heart put ourselves in your hands, begging you to have them suitors for your good favor, and that your affection for them should not grow less through absence. For it would be a great pity to increase their sorrow, since absence does it sufficiently, and more than I could have thought possible, reminding us of a point in astronomy, which is that the longer the days are, the farther off the sun is, and yet the more fierce. So it is with our love, for by absence we are parted, yet nevertheless it keeps in fervor, at least on my side, and I hope on yours also, assuring you that on my side the ennui of absence is already too much for me, and when I think of the increase of what I must needs suffer, it would be well nigh unbearable for me, were it not for the firm hope I have, and I cannot be with you in person. I am sending you the nearest possible thing to that, namely, my picture set in a bracelet, with the whole device which you already know, wishing myself in their place, and when it shall please you. This by the hand of your loyal servant and friend, Henry." While his love for Anne was growing ever so greatly, he found newer and better explanations to divorce Catherine. Whilst reading the Bible, he stumbled upon the line in the Leviticus chapter 20, verse 16 that said, If there is a man who takes his brother's wife, it is abhorrent. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They will be childless." His letter to the Pope placed the firm stance that upon marrying Catherine, his brother's widow, he had been punished by God and was left childless, with no male heir. He then went as far as to demand an annulment, to say that he had never married Catherine in the first place. The increase of demand set by Henry grew on Thomas Wolsey. With the king's ear, he tried explaining to the king and gave reasons of why the divorce wasn't successful. However, Henry's way was God's way in his eyes. Henry had every which way he wanted, and to him his commands were the commands of God sent to him. Wolsey was to secure the annulment no matter what got in his way. After 2 years of negotiation, the Pope still had very little respect for Henry's decision. He had turned down the proposal, and Wolsey, as Henry's closest advisor, was on the edge of the cliff. Being the person trusted to secure the deal, he was at the risk of a downfall, which meant certain death by execution. Anne and Thomas hadn't a good past, and they were both contenders in the competition for winning Henry's ear. Wolsey, with the failure of officiating the annulment, lost Henry's ear, which was then handed to Anne. Susceptible to rumors, Henry listened to Anne, who had called Wolsey a traitor due to the fact that he took 2 years to try to officiate a divorce and annulment. Wolsey was arrested in November 1530 for treason, the greatest sin at the time. He was mortified, as Henry was well known for his executions. Lucky for Wolsey, he died of a natural death the night before his summoning to court. Henry then turned to another one of his close confidants, Thomas Cromwell. Cromwell was a clever and deceptive man. He was skilled in both politics and laws. Within 6 years, he went from an almoner to Lord Chancellor. Cromwell succeeded in securing the annulment, but not with the Pope. and an evangelical, tried to spread the ways to Henry, who had listened to her and used those plans, shared them to Wolsey, who turned those plans into an idea, the Reformation. For years, Henry discouraged reformers. Reformers were those who rebelled the old Church of England. However much Henry wanted to support them, he remained a loyal Catholic as for his obsession to please God, to earn a male heir. He soon, however, disposed to Anne's ways. Using what Anne had told to Henry, Cromwell broke from Rome and formed and reformed the Church of England, the new Protestant church, with the consent of the people. With the new church, and Henry as the head of it, he got his annulment from Catherine and went on to marry Anne. In 1539, he published a great Bible, the Bible that explained the new ways of the English church. The title page of the great Bible depicts Henry sitting on his throne. His words are amongst the scriptures, stating and his opinions and his views. In his hands, he holds God's words and is giving it to the people. God appears as a small figure due to Henry's opinion that he now had more power than God himself. The bottom right-hand corner shows a prison, and in which has two prisoners, those who haven't been obedient to the king. The whole page gives a message, "Be obedient to me, King Henry VIII." Soon after, on September 7, 1533, Anne gave birth to the future Elizabeth I. Her birth was followed by a stillborn male. On January 24, 1536, Henry was involved in a jousting accident that would forever change history. He went from a fit, tall, handsome young man to a paranoid, immobile, fat tyrant. His behavior was affected, and his love for Anne soon died with his impatience for a male heir wasn't satisfied. Cromwell also reported that she had committed adultery and incest, and was beheaded in 1536 at age 36. A week later, Henry had married Jane Seymour, Anne's maid. Jane had given birth to his only male heir, Edward VI of England. She died a week after his birth due to complications of childbirth in 1537, aged 28. Unable to get over her birth, Henry soon called forth Cromwell to find him a suitable wife. Cromwell stumbled upon a portrait of Anne of Cleves. In the portrait, a beautiful young woman was depicted. What he wasn't aware of was that the painting was a portrait of a younger Anne, the same one that had become unattractive due to age. Henry agreed to marry Anne. However, when he met her in real life, he rejected her. Cromwell was convicted of treason and was beheaded for deceiving Henry into marrying what Henry called a whore. Finding no fault in Anne, Henry divorced her and granted her a salary and resources. The Duke of Norfolk found this chance as to bet his niece, Catherine Howard, with the king. As a young and foolish and frolicky girl, she committed adultery and was rightly caught. Pleading, she tried to avoid execution but failed. In 1542, at age 20, she was beheaded. Henry's sixth and last wife was Catherine Parr. She took care of him until the day of his death on January 28, 1547, clutching his Catholic rosary. He left England in a short-lived state of despair. The failed English church soon became a success after his death. It provided opportunities and restrictions to the pure-blooded English monarchy, and to this day, Catholics are required to convert to Protestantism to rule.